And I know I was meant to read the book The Possibility Principle, which led me to the book Swarm Intelligence, because it has, the Possibility Principle book has nearly a whole chapter on talking about the limitations of objectivity in labeling people with mental illnesses and diagnosing them, and how that collapses their wave function and keeps them in that. And it has a whole chapter on that. And so I recommend reading that chapter. And I was in awe of that, because this is what I've been talking about, and how nobody is saying that. He didn't really attribute it to flow and extraordinary states of consciousness and things like that, but he at least said in the book, Possibility Principle, the possibility principle in such cases can be framed like this: I am not the equivalent of my diagnosis. The diagnosis is simply a set of words used by someone to describe what they think they see about me. I am free to grow, to evolve, to reframe how I think and experience myself. I need not be reduced to the label that has been affixed to me. What a powerful affirmation. I should put that in a blog or something. So it talked about how there's no real thing as objectivity, yet we're training psychiatrists and psychologists to be objective in diagnosing people. But by having that training, they're looking for that in everyone, and they could put any diagnosis on anyone, really, and 6 psychiatrists aren't going to come to the same diagnosis, and it's not objective, yet we believe what they say. So it has a whole chapter on this. I don't want to read the whole thing or anything, but it didn't attribute some of these altered states of consciousness to the superhumanity and things like that, or it didn't say supposed bipolar or schizophrenia is possibly quantum states of consciousness that then get collapsed into a diagnosis. But it said that it collapses it, and then it makes it hard to be free to grow, to evolve, and to reframe how we think, because we've been told how to think. And it's interesting, this little affirmation bit that is in this book again, this is exactly what I've been doing. I am free to grow, to evolve, to reframe how I think and experience myself. I need not be reduced to the label that has been affixed to me. So, yeah, and the diagnosis is the psychiatrist's business. They're in the business of that, and I'm in the business of making my life my business, and how I experience myself my business. And in that we are one consciousness, I can see how I participate in creating the need for psychiatry by not thinking for myself and figuring it out for myself, figuring my life out for myself. And I feel like that's why Krishnamurti says you have to give your life to understanding your life. Give your life to understanding your life. Your whole life, your whole being, not, oh, I'll understand this little bit over here, and then there's a challenge over here, and I'll get the psychiatrist to give me a label and a medication for it. And that's kind of what's happening. And I think the book also mentions something about how by labeling, it doesn't invite new dialogue and things like that. So I'm impressed by this book because it actually mentions this type of phenomenon. Not many books on like possibility and quantum and evolving consciousness and metaphysics and all this wonderfulness talks about what's happening with psychiatry. This is kind of the first book that I've seen that isn't specifically on some kind of mad pride movement, or, you know, the great book A Spiritual Gift of Madness, or On Our Own by Judy Chamberlain, or The Politics of Experience by Artie Lang. Those are all specifically on that. This is on possibility principle, and it's drawing these relatednesses and conclusions and making these points. And this is something I could do, is extrapolate some of these books and put a blog post and then put an Amazon link or something, because it's cool that this person is seeing what happens, because this person who wrote the book is a psychologist. So, and I'm 29% of the way through the book Swarm Intelligence, and I think it is absolute genius. Absolute genius. It's amazing. And I probably highlighted half of it, and I do want to share some of it because it moves to the next bit of what I've been talking about. It sort of ties it together. And I feel like I'm in the space of living this quantum consciousness, and it's difficult to write a book or something, but people have written great books because they're able to tie this together. I feel like map consciousness turns life into a school of creativity, because our original innate creativity that we had as children was squashed by school, by education. And creativity isn't something separate from humanity. We create this world. I remember in my first experience of map consciousness, I would see the honeycomb shape everywhere, in human structures and natural structures, blah, blah, blah. It was very salient to me. So I was thinking that the scaffolding is sort of like creating a honeycomb, this new scaffolding of living. So it'd be cool from this self-dialogue to invite more people to generate content, participate in information sharing, collaborate, and have this creative manic collective, a collective swarm. And they also used the term creative contagion. And I wonder if we could create the C hive instead of the beehive, the C. C for seeing, perception, and also for C, the speed of light. And I really feel like I'm going to need to be more careful of how I carry myself. Part of the Swarm Intelligence book talked about how bees, they go out separately, and based on the waggle dance, they know who to follow to recolonize or something. And this self-dialogue is a really, really, really long waggle dance that maybe some of the memes will take hold. So I feel like besides that thing I said to myself about don't make this about me, another one is don't try to do anything about the me, because it's the trying to do something about the me from the level of the me that is the problem. The me trying to do something about the me. The self trying to end the self. And that movement of trying to end the self creates the self, because it affirms that there's a self there. So yeah, it's very paradoxical and oxymoronical, and I don't get it at all. And I realized too, this is sort of about to be or not to be the world. How long can this being have the sense of the whole world, of the whole of humanity? And I feel like to protect the being from that, one can construct even bigger ego defenses. So I don't know how I'm going to contain this, or if I'm supposed to contain this, or what the heck. It really feels subtly like that same sense of standing there feeling like I'm going to do an action to end my bodily life, and at the same time being in terror of that happening, not wanting it to happen at all. But subtle. It's that same conflict. I feel kind of alone and isolated. So I started writing a book on creativity and short extrapolations. So maybe I'll do that.